Well, this is a Q&A, and as you can tell by the title of this video, I did do drugs while in prison. But before you jump ship and say, Joe, what the fuck? I thought you were like doing good and you did good while you were in prison. Please, just let me explain. That is part of this Q&A because somebody did ask me, did you ever do drugs while in prison? And I am going to answer that, as well as a few other awesome questions people asked in the comment section of one of my last videos, including, how do you get a haircut in prison? What's the hardest and easiest thing to get used to in prison versus the real world? What is the stupidest thing that I've ever seen inmates fight behind while in prison? And also, how do you make friends while in prison? Friends, prison. Two things that really don't go too well together. But all of those are included in this video, as well as a little bit of bonus footage. So I will be showing you that as well. And also telling you about how I did drugs in prison. So let's begin with the first question asked by Lepsec. I think I said that right. What is the hardest thing and easiest thing to get used to while in prison and also coming home to the free world? The hardest thing to get used to while being in prison is got to deal with the lack of privacy that you have in there. One, you are surrounded by hundreds of other prisoners 24/7. 24 hours a day. You never are going to have just 10 minutes to yourself, 5 minutes, 1 minute, because somebody is always going to be right there around you. Privacy. You have none while in prison. Imagine trying to take a shit with 10 people in the bathroom with you, looking at you in a mirror while they brush their teeth as you're just sitting on a stool. That's not a pleasant experience at all. With correctional officers just walking into the restroom at any given time and going to ask you, hey, what are you doing? Well, officer, as it would appear, I'm trying to take a shit. I didn't think that would be too hard to pick up on. I am sitting on the stool, aren't I? Funny thing about it is, though, is eventually you get used to it. There were times I can remember specifically when I would be in the bathroom by myself and I didn't feel comfortable. It was the craziest damn thing. I couldn't even use the bathroom. I'd sit in there and be like, this doesn't feel right. I'm not comfortable taking a shit unless a guy is 2 feet away from me brushing his teeth, looking at himself in the mirror. The easiest thing to get used to while being in prison was absolutely nothing. There is nothing easy about being in prison. People may say, well, hell, at least you don't have to work. It's sort of like being on vacation, right? Yeah, vacation, where you could potentially be assaulted, raped, stabbed, killed, or get lost in the system and never come home. Sounds like a great vacation to me. The hardest thing to adjust to after being incarcerated, coming home to the free world, was probably trying to fit in, trying to understand that it was normal for me to be out here when all I felt like was any time that I went in public, people were staring at me. Holy shit. Am I okay to be in Walmart right now? Because I feel like all eyes are on me. Getting over the anxiety of being back out in the world. Being able to do whatever it is I wanted to do at any given time. It took a little while to get used to that. I can remember for like the first month, I would wake up thinking to myself, oh, it's count time. I got to get up and get dressed because they're getting ready to come in here and count. Wait a minute, I'm free. The easiest thing to get used to back in the free world? I'm not really sure. I'm not sure anything is easy coming from prison back out into society. Everything seems pretty damn tough. From trying to catch up on technology that you missed while you were away, to finding a job and a stable place to live, nothing is easy after being in prison, especially when you've been in there for almost a decade. Thermal Tom, he asked, how do you make friends while in prison? Making friends while you're locked up, that's a really complicated thing. One, you never want to get close to anybody in prison because you can't trust anybody. And while in prison, most individuals will stab you in the back, will lie to you in an attempt to gain whatever they can get from you, whether it be commissary, information, anything. Prison is cutthroat. Nobody is in there for being a good guy. When it comes to actually trying to make friends in prison, it takes time. Strictly platonic conversation is the most that you should have with anybody in prison that you don't know. Hey, how you doing? How's the weather? We're in prison. Weather doesn't fucking matter. Pretty good point. All right, see you later. When making friends in prison, you also have to use your gut instinct about individuals. First impressions mean a lot. And if you get a gut feeling that an individual is not a good person, then you really really shouldn't deal with that person. You also have to remember you don't know this person, and you damn sure don't know why they're in prison. Hell, they could be in there for anything, from any sort of sex crimes, hate crimes. They could be involved with gangs. You have to take all of this into consideration when picking and choosing who you will associate with in prison and could potentially call a friend. Bob Freeze, he asks, did you ever do drugs while you were in prison? And the answer to that is yes. But there is a major but to this. I didn't do drugs while I was in prison this time. I just served 7 years for nonviolent drug offenses, and throughout the entire course of the time that I was incarcerated this time, I did absolutely no drugs whatsoever, and I wanted nothing to do with that. Hell, drugs are what caused me to have to lose almost a decade of my life. I didn't want no parts of that. But there was another time that I was in prison, and I don't think I've told you about that. You see, before I served this 7-year prison sentence, there was another time I was locked up and actually sent to prison. And what I went to prison for the first time was for a probation violation. They sentenced me to 1.5 years. I spent 11 months in the jail serving my time there. And then for my last 5 months that I had to serve, because out of 1.5 years, that's 18 months. And out of 18 months, you're gonna serve something like 16 months. But on the last 5 months that I had to serve for that probation violation, they sent me to prison. And it was getting to this prison for the very first time, the lowest minimum security prison there is, that I thought this was okay. I was young, I was an idiot back then as well, and my way of thinking was totally fucked up. But when I got to prison for this very first time, this minimum security place, I was involved in all the wrong shit. Gambling and drugs. I wanted to get high in prison just because I thought that was cool. So what did I do? I smoked weed in prison twice. And let me tell you, I already can never handle weed. I've never been able to handle that stuff at all. That's like the strongest drug in the world to me. And when I smoke weed, I become like the dumbest person in the world. I'm like fucking half baked. Like, I'm fucking retarded on that shit. And we would smoke this weed at a urinal in the restroom, blowing the smoke out of a window that you could actually open in the prison. What kind of prison do you know that's going to allow you to open windows? And where this restroom was located, where we smoked this weed and blew the smoke out of the window, was literally only around the corner from where a CO would be stationed at. He was probably less than like 50 feet away from us as we're smoking, blowing this stuff out the window. After we got done smoking, I can specifically remember walking past this guard, feeling so fucking paranoid. I'm like, oh my God, I know I'm gonna get caught, man. I can't even open my eyes, man. I was high as fuck while in prison this very first time. And the craziest damn thing about this is both times that I smoked, the same exact fucking thing happened twice. I smoked weed 2 different times while in prison, and the same thing happened twice. Something fucking crazy, so retarded, the stupidest thing in the world. I had a bunk. My bunk was on the top. There was a guy that slept on the bunk below mine. And I remember I got my little cup, I put some ice in it, and I got a Dr. Pepper. I'll never forget. It was a Dr. Pepper. And all I want to do is just get in my bunk, dumb face high, with my Dr. Pepper, put my headphones on, and listen to some music. That's all I want to do. And as I was attempting to do this, I put the cup of Dr. Pepper with the ice in it on the top of the bunk, on the rail, on the end of the bunk. And it was sitting there. And then I got near the bunk and I jumped up onto the bunk. And as soon as I jumped up onto the bunk, my arm went out like this. And it almost happened like it was in slow motion. I felt like I was in the Matrix, the high prison Matrix. I jumped on the bunk, I put my arm out, and I accidentally hit the cup of Dr. Pepper. And it happened so slow. It was like maybe I was just high as fuck or whatever, but all I can remember is watching that cup of Dr. Pepper go over the bunk. And I'm thinking to myself, oh shit, I'm high as fuck. And there goes this cup of Dr. Pepper off of my bunk. I'm about to draw all of this attention to myself. And what's crazy is it didn't even hit the floor. It didn't hit the floor. This cup of Dr. Pepper like did a fucking complete flip and somehow flipped inside my bunkie's bunk, hit the rail on the front of his bunk, and literally as soon as it hit that rail, it was like a bullet out of a gun. All of that Dr. Pepper shot all over my bunkie sheets. Not one drop of Dr. Pepper was on the fucking ground near the bunk. And when I realized this, I'm so high. I'm like, holy shit. I can't believe I just did that. Oh my God, my bunkie, he's like a fucking 280 pound fucking older dude. He's gonna fucking kill me in here. We can't even get no sheets. We can't even wash no laundry. This guy has no sheets now because I've got Dr. Pepper all over his sheets. And I'll never forget thinking while all of this was transpiring, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that shit. I can't believe not one drop of Dr. Pepper hit the floor. Not one drop. My bunkie came over and was like, what the fuck did you just do? And I was like, oh, I'm young. You know, I'm one of these young, dumb kids in prison. I'm just like, oh my God, man. I'm so sorry, dude. Dude, I'm so sorry, man. Here, let me try to clean your bunk up, man. Let me try to get these sheets off your bunk, knowing there's nothing we can do with these sheets right now. Dude, I'm sorry, man. Here's a balled up bunch of your sheets right here with Dr. Pepper all over them. I don't know what the fuck else I can do. Some kind of way, he went to the CO and was able to go get some fresh sheets at like 10 o'clock at night when this was not even supposed to be possible. And thankfully, he didn't tell on me neither for, hey, my dumbass bunkie back there, he's higher than giraffe pussy. And he just spilled fucking Dr. Pepper all over my bunk. And not one drop of Dr. Pepper hit the floor. Go piss test this motherfucker. Yeah, thankfully he didn't do that. And what's even more crazy than not one drop of Dr. Pepper hitting the floor and that I did this was I didn't only do this one time. I swear to you, I did this both fucking times that I got high in prison. I jumped on the bunk the second time. The cup of Dr. Pepper was sitting right there. And as soon as I jumped up, my arm went out and the same damn thing happened, except the second time, it wasn't as much Dr. Pepper. It might have only been like half of the cup of Dr. Pepper hit his bunk, and then the rest of that shit went all over the floor. And having to deal with that situation twice in the same circumstance with me dumb as fuck, high as fuck, some dumb young high punk in prison. Like, oh dude, man, I can't believe I just did that shit again, yo. Damn, man, here's your balled up bunch of sheets with Dr. Pepper all over it, man. Fuck. I'm sorry, man. Yeah, I was an idiot. I'm lucky that guy didn't beat my fucking ass in there because he was a monster. He was huge. And as a conclusion to all of this, never did drugs again while in prison. 1, I was completely fucking uncomfortable doing that. 2, I dumped 2 cups of Dr. Pepper on my bunkie's bunk 2 different times that I had smoked weed while in prison. And this time when I was locked up for the 7 years, I didn't do anything. Not one fucking thing. Sergeant Turkey, he asks, how do you get a haircut while in prison? Seems like a pretty cut and dry answer. Cut and dry answer, right? I mean, you would just assume that you would go to the barbershop, you'll go get your haircut because yes, they do have barbershops while in prison, but going to the barbershop ain't always the easiest thing to do because sometimes barbershops are either gang hangouts or, you know, you got to kind of know somebody to get into a barbershop. And then if you do get into a barbershop and you don't know who the barbers are personally, like you don't have some kind of a friendship or gang association with them, they will just butcher you in there for no reason just because they don't care. So getting your hair cut in prison is kind of a tricky thing too. But thankfully, there are a lot of prisoners in prison whose hustle is actually cutting hair. Because I don't know if you saw that video, how to make a prison tattoo gun, but at certain prisons, you can buy your very own pair of hair clippers, and individuals will use those in prison to cut other prisoners' hair. So it's really not hard to find a barber while in prison because a good majority of prisoners make their living cutting hair on the side for ramen noodles and chips and coffee and sodas and candies. It's not uncommon. There is one thing that you always have to watch out for when picking and choosing who you will allow to cut your hair. And that is that a lot of these guys who cut hair in prison, they also use those same clippers that they're gonna put on your fucking head and shave your beard with. They will take those clippers and shave their balls with them. This is absolutely true. I can't tell you how many times I've met people in prison who cut hair as their hustle. And they'll come up and they'll be like, hey Joe, see the hair is getting a little crazy, man. You want me to tighten that up for you? And I'd be like, yeah, sure. And then they'll say, okay, yeah, no, not a problem. I'm just gonna hop in the shower real quick. And as soon as I get out, you can get a haircut. And then you'll go into the bathroom to take a piss and you'll hear the shower water running because the shower is only separated by a partition, like a cement block partition from the toilet area. But you'll walk into this bathroom and you'll hear the shower water running and you'll also hear the clippers going. And that is a key indication that somebody's back there shaving their balls. And sometimes it's even a person who makes their hustle cutting other people's hair and beards in prison. Hey Joe, I just got out the shower, man. You ready for that haircut? I think I'm good. Thanks a lot, man. I'll just rough it for a few more weeks. And then not 20 minutes later, you'll see them trimming somebody else's beard. So you always have to do your homework when deciding who you will allow to cut your hair, because they could either fuck your hair up, not care about your hair at all, make you look retarded in prison. You already look retarded for being in prison. Or they could be an individual who uses the same clippers to cut your hair with that they cut their balls with. And that's a big negatory. Zach Hargett, he asks, what is the stupidest fight that I have ever seen between prisoners? I've seen a ton of stupid fights between prisoners, from everything from the TV to, yes, like chairs, like you said in your comment. But one thing that I've seen prisoners fight behind at least a few different times is over female prison staff. See, what happens is you'll get these guys in prison who try to fraternize with the female staff, and the female staff will in some ways respond to that, laughing at their little dumb jokes, offering conversation in return for whatever stupid shit that they're talking about. And sometimes these prisoners will get it in their head that, my God, I just said hello to this female officer, she said hello back, and I know she wants to have my baby now. So they'll spend the rest of their incarcerated time jerking off to visual images of this female staff person. And also, mentioning this, sometimes this is not as made up as it seems like in these prisoners' heads. Sometimes this is for real, and these prisoners actually do begin relationships with these female staff members. I've seen that happen quite a bit as well. In certain instances, you'll have prisoner A trying to get at this female staff person, and then prisoner B is trying to do the same thing. And at times, this gets heated to the point where I've seen these guys literally trying to fucking kill each other in the cell block because prisoner A caught prisoner B talking to the CO. Hey yo, you talking to my old lady, man? Your old lady, she's my girl. And then it's like fucking World War III in there. These guys are fucking beating the shit out of each other, blood fucking everywhere, over a female staff person who in all likelihood probably doesn't give a fuck about either of these individuals. But then again, maybe she does. Who the fuck knows? Hey look, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did so, please leave a like and a comment. Let me know exactly what you think. As always, enjoy life, the free world. Never take a moment for granted and make the most of every day. Peace. So real quick, before I do these shout outs, I just want to show you a little of what me experiencing snow for the first time since being released from prison was like. Holy fuck. This was a mistake. I'm out here walking in the snow. And this is actually the first time I've seen snow since I've been home from prison. It's pretty snowy out here. Pretty snowy. I don't know. I was cold. Give a few shout outs, starting with Snapchat. Shout out Desmond for being an awesome supporter of APS. Special shout out to you. From Instagram, let's shout out Michael RS, Arrow Life, Bunk Ass, and Sowlin Private. Thanks to all of you for supporting APS on Instagram. All of you are awesome. From Twitter, let's shout out JM, Harry Prince, Ray, and also Tanner Allen. Thanks to all of you supporting APS on Twitter. You guys rock. From my videos, I said that if anybody commented Skipper, I would shout out 5 of you who did so. So let's go ahead and shout out DXHX. I don't even know. What is that? Special shout out to you, Sunny days. Sunny days. Special shout out to you as well. Secret CCTV camera? That's a little peculiar. Shout out to you. LaCarrie Mitchell. You also commented, Skipper. Shout out as well. And last, Miles Weber. Special shout out to you, dude. Hey, until next time, peace.